I want us to hear some proclamations and words. Let me start with another one that had been smeared, that God tested and they passed the test. Let us hear from our Congresswoman, Rep Omar.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Reverend Al-Sharpton, for being here and for that beautiful eulogy. Most of us in this room, including myself, look at you as a guardian and are blessed to be in your presence. And may Daunte Wright serve as a guardian for all of us. But as a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, as one of the youngest and newest members of the Congressional Black Caucus, I also have guardians. Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee and our chairwoman, Joyce Beatty, serve as guardians for me and many of my colleagues. Joyce Beatty was going to be here and speak on our behalf as the chairwoman of our caucus. But just like we've been visited by tragedy here in Minnesota often, she, in Columbus, Ohio, was visited by a tragedy of a young woman whose life was taken by Columbus police. And so I wanted to read a little bit of the resolution of congressional condolences that our guardian, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee, filed on behalf of our son, Daunte Wright, here in Minnesota. Whereas Daunte Demetrius Wright attended Thomas Edison High School in Minneapolis, which I'm an alum of, and Blaine High School in Blaine, Minnesota. After high school, he studied at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities in Minneapolis. Daunte Demetrius Wright had a son born in July 2019. Daunte Demetrius Wright named his son Daunte Demetrius Wright Jr. And we are today comforted by the words of our Lord in the Revelation 21-4, which says, "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things that passed away." No words can really help ease the pain, no words can really help to ease the loss you bear. Just know that your family and friends are very close in every thought and prayer. May the outpouring of sympathy, the kinds of acts of friends and strangers, the comfort in knowing that your loss is felt by many, help you through this. Daunte Demetrius Wright brought great joy to his family, and his life was a blessing to all who had the privilege to know him. Daunte Demetrius Wright is survived and cherished by his father, Aubrey Wright, and his mother, Katie Wright, and his son, Daunte Wright Jr. and a host of family and friends. And his legacy will live. We also wanted to present this to his mom and dad, if you all can come. We flew a flag over the United States Capitol on behalf of your son. And I wanted to present the flag to you.
Now let them stay here a minute. We got something else to present them. All of this they deserve. When George Floyd was killed and we wanted the best prosecution, my mentor, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and I called the governor. And the governor talked to the DA, who graciously stepped back and allowed the Attorney General to be the prosecutor that did such a great job. And the governor's here with us today with a proclamation from the state.
As Governor of Minnesota, on behalf of the entire state and our population, we extend our deepest condolences to the Wright family and issue the following proclamation to honor the life and memory of Daunte Wright. Whereas Daunte Wright was beloved by his families, neighbors, community, and had his entire young life ahead of him, we mourn that loss. We know that this tragedy is connected to the deep and systemic racism in our society that Black people in Minnesota and across this country face every single day. While nothing will bring Daunte Wright back to his loved ones, we must continue to enact real, meaningful change at the local, state, and national levels to fight systemic racism so that every single person in Minnesota, Black, Indigenous, brown, and white, can be safe and thrive. We must be steadfast in our accountability to change from the top to the bottom and not rest until we create a different future for Daunte Wright's son and every other child like him. Now, therefore, I, Tim Walz, Governor of Minnesota, had ordered a moment of silence for 2 minutes across the entire state of Minnesota at 12 p.m. on Thursday, April 22nd, to honor the life and memory of Daunte Wright and his family and friends as they lay him to rest. And remember that every person whose life has been cut short due to systemic and racism and discrimination will not be forgotten.
In order to pass the George Floyd bill that has already passed the House, we need to pass it in the Senate. We have an advocate from the Senate, your senator in Minnesota, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Thank you so much, Reverend Al, and thank you, Bishop Howell, for allowing me to join you in this sacred space. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Wright, and asking me to close out by saying a few words in your son's memory. I don't have a proclamation for you to give in a piece of paper. I've got a proclamation in the Senate, and that is that we must pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. You know, there's a photo of your son, of Daunte that many Americans have seen by now. He's standing outdoors on a sparkling day, holding his son, Daunte Jr., and he's got this big smile on his face, that smile that you said, Katie, would light up the room. We see the lively, outgoing young man who always made people laugh, who was lovingly voted class clown his freshman year by his high school class. We see the basketball fan whose left-handed shot would make any coach proud. Most of all, we see Daunte's radiant love for his family as he holds his baby boy. In the photo, Daunte Jr. wears a colorful bib with polka dots and a bow tie, and the words "First Birthday" printed in cheerful letters across the front. And that's when we see the enormous hole Daunte leaves in the world. That's when we remember that he won't be there for his son's second birthday or high school graduation, or to see those grandkids. Racism in this country is not isolated, it is systemic. And so, when we ask ourselves why Daunte Jr. has to grow up without a dad, when we think about what could possibly fill this hole Daunte left in the world, we come up empty. Instead, we find a much bigger hole where justice should be. That word is so heavy on our minds this week, justice. 2 days ago, in a courtroom not 10 miles from where Daunte was shot, a jury found Derek Chauvin guilty of the murder of George Floyd, and the nation owes a debt of gratitude to the Floyd family. Thank you for being here. To my friend, Attorney General Keith Ellison, who's, by the way, Reverend Al, if I could introduce his family, Keith's family, who has had his back right there, if they could stand up. Keith's family, his wife, Monica, they had his back through everything. And to Ben Crump, Reverend Al, Reverend Jesse Jackson, all those in my state who have been warriors for justice. And yet, while this was a historic moment for our country, we cannot confuse accountability for justice. Because true justice is not done as long as having expired tags means losing your life during a traffic stop. True justice is not done as long as a chokehold, a knee on the neck, or a no-knock warrant is considered legitimate policing. True justice is not done as long as Black Americans are killed by law enforcement at more than twice the rate of white Americans. And to use your words, Katie, true justice is not done as long as your son isn't coming home for dinner. Our hearts ache for Daunte in part because so many people in this room and throughout our state can imagine being 20 years old, driving around their neighborhood on a Sunday afternoon, yes, even with expired registration tags, yes, even with an air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. Many young people can imagine calling their mom when they need insurance information or when they're scared, but only some can imagine being shot by a police officer during a traffic stop. Only some could imagine that this phone call would be their last. Only some live with that fear every single day. And that, Mr. Crump, as you know, is the definition of injustice. During that groundbreaking trial, George Floyd's family members, a store clerk, a firefighter, passerbys, as well as you noted, Reverend Al, a number of police officers testified about George Floyd and what happened that day. They told the truth. They said it was wrong. And we heard Darnella Fraser, a teenager who testified having witnessed George Floyd murder, say, "It's been nights I stay up, apologizing for George Floyd for not doing more." Could she have done more? No. It was not on her to change what happened that fateful day. And it's not on people who nearly a year later happened to be at the intersection of 63rd and Orchard in Brooklyn Center to change what happened to Daunte. It is on us as leaders in our communities, in our neighborhoods, as lawmakers. We can do more, we must do more, because for too long change has come inch by inch when we should be miles ahead. It is time for Washington, D.C. to move forward on police reform and pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act. We must make policing more accountable. We have to change police training and standards, including banning chokeholds, which my colleague, Senator Smith, is leading the bill to ban chokeholds. Along with myself, she is up here with me on this stage. We have to change the status quo so that driving while black doesn't result in getting shot. This is the urgent task before us, not for tomorrow when I go back to Washington, not for tomorrow, not for next year, but for now. True justice. So as we remember Daunte's life and grieve his death, we must repair what's broken in this country and make sure class counts and basketball fans, doting fathers and caring sons remain with us in body, as Daunte now does in spirit, Mrs. Wright. And we won't rest until justice, true justice, is done. That's my proclamation to you.